Welcome to another deep dive explainer. Today we're setting off on a seriously epic, mythic journey straight into the heart of the Norse afterlife. We're unpacking the absolutely fascinating story of Jalmar's glimpse of glory. So, if you've ever been captivated by legendary tales of Asgard, Valkyries, and eternal feasts, well, strap in. We're going to bring those ancient myths to life and look at exactly how one audacious mortal actually interacted with the divine. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. What if the realm of the gods wasn't just some bedtime story? It's a pretty profound thought, right? Imagine being a 10-year-old boy who decides he doesn't just want to sit around hearing tales by the fire. Nope, he wants to prove that the myths are absolutely real. That is exactly what our young protagonist, Jalmar, sets out to do. It's a story that just perfectly captures that fearless Norse spirit, and it's going to totally guide our analysis today. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, a daring plan in Burka. To really get this, you've got to picture the scene. The year is 725, and we're in the middle of a bustling, gritty trading post. The air's thick with smoke, and there's just this heavy, collective grief hanging over the village for a fallen chieftain, a fierce warrior named Torheim. But while everyone else is weighed down by the funeral, 10-year-old Jalmar's burning curiosity completely takes over. He didn't want to just watch the procession from the sidelines. He literally wanted to see where the dead went. He had this reckless, almost crazy desire to catch a glimpse of Valhalla for himself. Okay, so how does a kid actually pull this off? Let's dive into his daring plan. Jalmar had to move like a stealthy little fox. Step 1, he managed to sneak right past the distracted, grieving villagers and the chanting priests. Step 2, he zeroed in on a thick woolen traveling blanket tied to the edge of Torheim's heavy ceremonial cloak, and he carefully unrolled a corner. And finally, Step 3, he wrapped himself tightly inside, held his breath, and quite literally bound his fate to the fallen warrior. Talk about a leap of faith. Moving right along to Section 2, hitching a ride to Asgard. This is where the story shifts abruptly from the earthy, smoke-filled reality of a funeral pyre to this majestic, supernatural ascent. As the ceremonial fires start burning, the fabric of reality basically just tears open above the ship, bridging the mortal world and the divine realm. And this is absolutely fascinating because it highlights how Norse mythology worked. To the mortal crowd standing on the ground, the arrival of the Valkyries was just seen as a sudden flash of northern lights. But Jalmar's view, peeking through a tiny tear in the blanket, he saw magnificent armor-clad maidens riding invisible winds. It's a perfect example of how ancient cultures mapped supernatural events directly onto natural phenomena, like the aurora borealis. So the real question is, how did this hitchhiking actually work? Well, the Valkyries, Stina and Lucinda, descend and scoop up Torheim's spirit by grabbing his heavy cloak. And because Jalmar is bundled so securely in that attached blanket, he is accidentally hoisted right up into the cosmos along with the warrior. I mean, just imagine that breathtaking flight past the stars. They fly straight through the shimmering gates of Asgard and arrive at Gladsheim. And the second the Valkyries step away to announce the arrival, Jalmar manages this incredible narrow escape, untying himself and scrambling into some lush lingonberry bushes to hide. Which brings us to Section 3. A tour of the Great Hall, Gladsheim. Now, Torheim, who's suddenly rejuvenated into this flawless, glowing version of his prime self, hears a rustling in the bushes and finds the shivering little boy. But get this, instead of being angry, Torheim is deeply impressed. He figures any kid who can sneak past Burka's priests and Odin's own Valkyries has true warrior courage. So he smiles and promises Jalmar a full tour of Valhalla for exactly 1 day. And guys, the architecture of Gladsheim is mind-blowing. The scale is impossible. The ceiling is so immense it disappears into a golden mist, and it's thatched entirely with a glittering golden shield roof. The rafters holding it up, massive polished spears. And the seats inside are draped with fine coats of mail. It brilliantly reinforces that this is a hall built entirely by and for war and glory. And it gets better, because this incredible architecture houses a fully functioning magical ecosystem. Right in the center of the courtyard grows the magnificent tree Laeradrard. Its lush leaves provide food for the magical goat Heidrun. And Heidrun, she literally milks an endless supply of sweet mead straight into giant vats. It's an absolutely incredible, self-sustaining loop designed to keep the warriors of the Great Hall endlessly fueled up. This actually brings us to a really crucial concept, the Einherjar. By definition, these are the fallen soldiers who reside in Valhalla, destined to battle daily and feast endlessly. You can just imagine Jalmar's wide-eyed wonder standing there watching thousands upon thousands of these elite, mythic warriors marching out into the surrounding fields in joyous sport. To really understand what this afterlife entailed, we have to look at their eternal cyclical day. In the morning, the warriors march out to battle, fighting with everything they have. By midday, any wounds they've sustained magically heal up, and then by evening, they return to the hall for endless feasting together. Talk about the ultimate warrior's paradise, right? It plays out on a flawless daily loop.
Now we're on to section 4, in the presence of gods up in the high halls.
As if the Great Hall wasn't enough, Torheim uses his massive frame to physically shield the boy as they move deeper into the divine sanctuary. Jalmar isn't just looking at fallen mortals anymore, folks. He is witnessing the divine Norse pantheon in their own private space. And it's such a vivid sensory snapshot of the gods at rest. You've got the mighty Thor, laughing heartily, just completely relaxed with his massive hammer resting casually by his side. And there's beautiful Freya, draped in her shimmering feather cloak. What's so captivating is how it totally humanizes these massive mythic figures. It makes them feel real, grounded, and actually approachable through young Jalmar's eyes. But the absolute climax of this tour happens at the far end of the hall. Seated upon the high seat, Hlidskjalf, is Odin the All-Father himself. He's flanked by his two iconic ravens, Hugin and Munin, who are actively whispering the secrets of the 9 realms right into his ears. Jalmar, terrified but just overflowing with curiosity, peeks from behind a pillar and, miraculously, locks eyes with the one-eyed All-Father. And this moment brilliantly illustrates a core truth about Norse culture. The source tells us the All-Father offered a subtle, knowing nod to the brave little mortal, amused by the boy's boundless thirst for knowledge. This isn't just a fun little passing detail. It explicitly connects Odin's nod to the broader cultural takeaway that an unquenchable thirst for knowledge, combined with sheer bravery, were the absolute most revered traits in the Norse world. They were the things Odin valued above all else. And that brings us to our final chapter, Section 5, The Return to Mortal Realm. As the sun begins to dip below Asgard's majestic horizon, it marks the end of Jalmar's single day in paradise. Torheim escorts him back to the outer gates, where Stina and Lucinda are waiting to return this living cargo back to exactly where he belongs. But before he leaves, Torheim offers him this beautiful parting advice. He tells the boy to go back to Berka and live a full, honorable life. He says, when your time truly comes, many winters from now, you will walk through these gates as an invited guest, not a stray fox. It's warm, it's funny, and it just deeply resonates, honoring the future path Jalmar has to forge to earn his permanent place in the halls of glory. So, the Valkyries gather him up, and with a massive rush of wind, they dive back through the clouds. The magnificent heights of Asgard fade into the stars, replaced by a quiet, grounding reality. Jalmar awakes in Birka, lying safely in the soft grass. The massive funeral pyre is now just glowing embers against the night sky. He's got ash on his clothes, but as the text tells us, he now carries the eternal light of the gods in his heart. Jalmar boldly faced the gods, and because of that incredible journey, he knew he would never fear the dark again. He took a massive risk to seek out the truth for himself, rather than just accepting the stories he was told. So I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative question. What will you do with your glimpse of glory? Let this explainer and Jalmar's story guide your own courage and curiosity. Thank you so much for diving into these amazing sources with me, and keep exploring the incredible myths that shape our world.